So what? Okay, let's say for the example of that. And this is the whole idea. We're finally at episode 14, getting into what I want a Geek Church to be. Okay, so let's follow that through, right? And which just happens to be the anniversary of Roe versus Wade, so this is very timely. So let's follow this thinking through, because we go, okay, so, and I'm just going to say Christians in general, because they're the biggest pro-life, anti-abortion group out there. And obviously there's non-Christians who are, but they're the biggest,
primarily traditional, but religious.
So let's say that happens and we fight against it. Now there's going to court, protesting, writing senators, changing your voting, like voting for only based off of that. That's all legal. That's all fine fighting, and I understand like the whole with that ferocity.
That's why I'm saying the spirit is not necessary.
If you go illegal, like whatever it is, whatever it is, if you fight it illegal, it goes back to the whole ends justifying the means thing. So let's say you win, right? The church comes against it, does some illegal stuff, and wins. But at what cost? Okay, so now we've got it to be illegal to have abortion, but we've just we've just mortgaged our soul. So now we've just completely thrown everything else that we believe in away for this one thing. Now, I'm not by any means, I think abortion is one of the worst things in the world right now, that it's like so many of our other problems stem from it, both practical, spiritual, all kinds. I'm so against abortion, to the point to where if I did have superpowers, I probably would cross the line, and I probably would just take the government hostage and say it's illegal. And if you want, like if I was Superman, I probably would cross the line and be like, okay, here's the thing, right? It's now illegal. If not, I'm going to just go to war with any country that says it is.
Just gonna break each one of your fingers.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know what? I'm Superman. You can't. I can destroy the entire military. Just listen to what I said. Like, I probably would cross the line. Like, that's how against I am. Luckily, I don't have that power. I don't have to be tempted to cross the line. Sometimes I wish. No, but... So I'm very against it, but at the same time, I think that doing something like that, even though I'm pretty sure I don't have strong enough character, I would succumb to that. At what cost? Because if you're saying, oh, well, we're against it because we're Christian, but then if you do illegal stuff to get you in, you're no better than, it's like, what's the point? You've lost everything to get something, I don't know. So I don't think you can do like the Captain America situation of like, well, we're breaking off from the government, we're going to do shady things to try to go against it.
Well, that's why I'm saying, like, I would join Captain America's side at least to the point of, I want to fight against this to, at the very least, because they're not even like putting this to the people to vote on it to see if, hey, maybe we should let people vote on it, because that was the original plan until the whole thing comes.
Well, and it parallels, I mean, they talk about art imitating life, life imitating art. It parallels kind of what's been happening with the whole gay marriage thing, to where the people vote on it, and then it gets overturned by judges. Well, this is very similar. They've taken the power away from the people. Now, instead of putting it in the judicial branch, it's been put into the executive and the Congress. There's the whole three branches. There's the executive, there's the Congress, the legislative, and then there's the judicial. Well, the legislative and the executive kind of bypass the judicial and the people, which is when the power is supposed to be with the people, and then the other three branches are supposed to just govern that power, which doesn't really work that much. So
checks and balances.
Checks and balances, like
it's
a lot of times
overdrawn.
it's overdrawn. But so like they completely bypass it, which is very, like I said, it parallels, like with the whole like how many times did California vote no on gay marriage, but yet it's legal because the judicial branch kind of stepped in. So it's kind of the same thing. Like it was never put to the people. It was something that was just, and it was like overnight practically. I know it was a period of a few weeks or months or whatever, but like you said, they just passed it right through, and there was no option. And that's really, or at least they really bring this out in the game. Is Captain America's point is he doesn't expect to like win this war. He expects to get, like, his goal, again, I don't know how much this is in the comics, but in the game, his whole point of fighting and everything is to get the public opinion to overturn it. So his whole idea is they're going to fight until this law is overturned. And they're not expecting to beat the government. They're expecting to
at least
be a cause. So they're basically doing the superhero equivalent of picketing. Except for their picketing means beating the crap out of the registration, the registered heroes, and the shield stuff. But that's another thing the game pulled out that was pretty good. Is like they're like, we're not stupid. We can't beat America. We're just trying to like get people to see how ludicrous this is and vote this thing out.
Yeah, it's less fighting against the government as much as it's
raising
fighting,
awareness,
fighting for the people's opinion. And it really, I mean, it should, like, that's why I'm saying I would go for it at least to the point of, let's go until we find out that there's absolutely no way that we're going to win, and then it's like, alright, raise the white flag type thing. Let's stop the madness and get it over with, and then, no, I'm kidding.
So,
yeah.
Could you imagine, like, this is completely, and I guess we're mostly done, so that's why I'm throwing out a rabbit trail here. What do you think it would look like? And this could, maybe we can do a whole episode, I don't know. But what do you think it would look like if the Civil War happened in the DCU instead of the Marvel Universe? And if this happened in the DC Universe?
They definitely
It'd be drastically different.
They definitely have to do a 3-way split instead of a 2, since there's
What's the
3, because you have Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman instead of just having Iron Man and Captain America.
No, I think that Wonder Woman and Batman would be on Captain America's side, and Superman would be the government puppet. At least that's what Frank Miller thinks, because he did that in Dark Knight, where Superman. Have you ever read Dark Knight or Dark Knight Returns from Frank Miller? Basically, it's like however many years in the future, but like Superman basically is like the lapdog of the president, and Batman's kind of like the anti-hero. But yeah, I don't know. I think Wonder Woman would she would not be for it. She'd either be on like the Captain America side, or she would just withdraw altogether and go back to the Themyscira and just like
that's what I'm
out of man's. This is a
just
stupid like Thor. This is a dumb man's thing, like a man's world kind of thing. I'm out here, just like Thor was like, this is a mortal thing. I'm pulled himself out, and the fact that it was the end of the world for him. He had he was a little busy with the end of their world.
Yeah,
so Armageddon, but so that I don't know. This would be interesting because it's hard to fight against whatever team Superman's on. And Superman is also the Captain America of that universe, so a lot of people would be on Superman's side just because it's Superman, and a lot of people would not be on Batman's side just because they're scared of him.
Yeah, but the thing is, the reason why I'm not going to be on someone's side is because I'm terrified of him, is all the more motivation to I want to be that guy.
Yeah, but not everyone's that way, and when it comes down to it, they're scared of him, but Superman has much more, in terms of power. So I don't know. It definitely would be interesting.
Batman is always at least 4 strides ahead of anybody that he's coming against, even if it's somebody that's like a total madman, like the Joker. He's always at the very least in step, if not way ahead. And so that even though he's battling with Superman, he'd already have everything practically chess mat.
Yeah, it would be interesting because you'd have to go down the list of heroes. They have a lot stronger heroes in DC than Marvel, and it'd be interesting because Captain Marvel would be on the government side because he's old school. He's a little kid, but he's old school about Right Rock, so he'd be on the government side. And the other thing too is DC has a lot of insanely powerful villains who would probably and Batman would take advantage of them. This is the thing is right. It's kind of switched. Superman is like the Captain America, but he would have been on Tony's position, and Batman's much more like Tony, but he would have been in Captain America's position. So it's really switched. It's kind of funny how it would be, but I don't know. Honestly, it would have been something kind of like actually that cinematic for DC, the DC Online. Is if they fought amongst themselves, some other villain would come in, Darkseid or Brainiac or something would come in and just conquer the whole planet. And that's basically what that cinematic was, is Lex Luthor and the villains basically were waging war against Superman and the Justice League and the heroes, and they weakened themselves so much by thinning out their numbers that then Brainiac came in and took over the world, and Lex Luthor comes to the past to warn him, because he was one of the only surviving members. And it was something like that I think would happen, towards the end of the Civil War, boom tubes open up, and it's Earth's now a colony of apocalypse, and they don't have the strength to fight back because they've just fought a 6-month war against themselves, and half of their better
heroes is pretty much what happened in the Marvel universe.
With the Secret Invasion,
Secret Invasion, nobody could trust each other because of hurt feelings, and injuries and everything else, and the inability to be able to be in contact with the people.
Well, and that was even brought out, and I think it was in the comic books, but it was really big. Was Mr. Fantastic, Reed Richards? His whole thing in the game is he's less about if it's right or wrong. His whole stance is he's done the calculations, and he's like, we can't afford to be split. Like, his whole thing is if a civil war happens, he's calculated that something horrible is going to happen, and which of course is secret invasion. So he basically predicted that. He was like, the reason he was for it was because he knew if they fought against it, something much worse was going to happen. And so that's why, at least in the game, that was really his stance, is we cannot afford to fight against this. And of course, the majority of the superheroes against it are like, we could care less about your number crunching, whatever, this is wrong.
Yeah, you could have made that up.
Yeah, and he was like, we cannot afford, which definitely would have been true in DC, is there's so many world-conquering villains that it would have been like, oh,
really,
look.
I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner, just because of the whole, right at the same time as Civil War is tearing apart the Marvel Universe on Earth, you had the Annihilation wave that was coming through out of the negative zone, tearing apart. That's why the Skrulls even came to Earth in the first place, because they annihilated the Skrull Empire. And if it wasn't for the Kree, then, which are extremely powerful militant race, the Annihilation wave probably would have come all the way through and destroyed Earth before, since they had taken control of Galactus and all that.
I didn't read Annihilation, so I don't have a lot. You told me the gist of it, but I haven't really read it, so I can't really comment too much on that. But
so good. So good. A lot of deaths that I did not expect to happen.
So, well, I think that about wraps it up. I don't know how long it was, but I think it was good. Like I said, this is the idea of, let's just start talking about comics and religion and politics, and everything comes out of it,
Yeah.
So like in the past, I felt like we've been forcing it. Oh, we're talking about this, and so we're going to talk about this topic, and this is how we're... Well, we didn't have any... I knew that would come out of it, but we had no predetermined... Well, we're talking about Civil War, so we're going to talk about this. No, let's just start talking about Civil War, and stuff comes out of it. So I don't know. I like this format much better, where it's just... Let's have a discussion, and like I said, both the religious side and the politics and all this stuff is going to come out of the conversation. And this is the exact kind of conversation I originally designed Geek Church to be, and I tried to make it happen for the first episodes. And I got to the point where I was feeling it's not happening. I just don't feel like Geek Church is happening the way it needs to be. And like I said, so it took us 14 tries, but we finally got it to be what it was supposed to be. Yeah. So I'm very happy, and hopefully, and of course, we had great material to talk about. But so I guess with that, we'll just kind of wrap it up, and we'll see you guys next week. I was going to do that. It's funny. We start off like, good evening. It's like, we're slowly becoming more and more the same person. Last episode we had this, I guess it was last week. So last episode we had the same sweater. Now we sit the same. You always notice?
It's just going to fade until like... Pastor's going to come looking for one of us and it's just not going to exist anymore.
We're like just one person. That'd be weird. And we become like, we just like a collective mind. We start absorbing people into like our consciousness.
That would be very